Okay guys, today we have some Madonna, some Twitter and some Pelosi. Madonna will be at the end. It's weird. Okay, let's get going. Hey guys, how you going? Oh well, this Pelosi thing just keeps changing. Oh dear, okay. Pelosi case, statement of facts change again. Body cam footage becomes more and more imperative and nothing makes sense. The Gateway Pundit reported earlier this week on a timeline anomaly that appeared in the official FBI complaint filed on October 28th. That anomaly included an interview from a witness, Witness 1, the only unbiased, unaffiliated party known. That witness was working security at a nearby residence. He alleges to have seen Pepe, and I can't even say that name properly, and also heard what sounded like banging on either a door or car. Then he heard the sirens within a minute or two. This is the sound likely made by Pepe banging on what should be reinforced glass with a hammer. The witness claims to have heard a siren 1 to 2 minutes later. In the above-mentioned article, we show how Witness 1 either has no sense of time or something else actually happened. Now we get the statement of facts from Assistant District Attorney Brooke Jenkins in a court filing, and it makes no mention of any witness statement being taken. But the story gets infinitely more bizarre. This statement of facts makes no mention of domestic terrorism specialist Special Agent Stephanie Miner's American Founding Fathers accusations. The backpack in the backyard now has a laptop, not a journal. Oh goodness. Did that laptop access friendlyfriends.com or godisloving.wordpress.com in the last couple of months? Also, we now find out there didn't seem to be any sense of urgency to get out of harm's way on the 911 call, or especially when police arrived. Apparently, the assailant welcomed the 911 call as he apparently watched Pelosi put the phone on speaker as he wielded his hammer 3 feet away from Pelosi on his suicide mission that involved a lot more than just Pelosi. Sounds legit. Let your victim call the cops and you still don't attack him until the cops arrive? So much for his mission. In the middle of the night, defendants smashed through a window in the back door of Pelosi home in search of the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. But the Speaker Pelosi was not home, only her 82-year-old husband, Paul, who slept upstairs in his pyjama top and boxer shorts. Do you remember how it started? They were in their underwear. Okay, that's one of the original reports. And someone else opened the door? Yeah, okay. Standing over Mr. Pelosi's bedside just after 2 a.m., defendant startled Mr. Pelosi awake by asking, "Are you Paul Pelosi?" Defendant carried a large hammer in his right hand and several white plastic zip ties in his left hand. Defendant then repeated, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Still groggy from being suddenly awoken, Mr. Pelosi responded, "She's not here." Defendant then demanded, "Well, when's she going to be back?" "She's in Washington. She's not going to be back for a couple of days," defendant responded. "Okay, well, I'm going to tie you up." What? Mr. Pelosi stood up and tried to leave by the elevator near the bedroom, but defendant held the door, preventing Mr. Pelosi from escaping. Mr. Pelosi then returned to the bedroom, sat on the bed and asked defendant why he wanted to see or talk to Nancy. "Well, she's number 2 in line for the presidency, right?" When Mr. Pelosi agreed, defendant responded that they are all corrupt and we've got to take them all out. When Mr. Pelosi asked if he could call anyone for defendant ominously responded that it was the end of the road for Mr. Pelosi. What the hell? I've got a cat in front of me now. Still trying to escape from defendant, Mr. Pelosi asked to use the bathroom. Defendant allowed him to do so. Mr. Pelosi stood up and walked to the bathroom where his phone was charging. Standing in the bathroom, Mr. Pelosi grabbed his phone, turned it on, called 911 and put the phone on speaker. Watching Mr. Pelosi, defendant stood about... watching him go to the toilet? Defendant stood about 3 feet away. He wasn't going to the toilet. Sorry, guys. Still holding the large hammer and the zip ties. During the 911 call itself, Mr. Pelosi said that there was a gentleman there waiting for his wife, Nancy Pelosi, to come back. But Mr. Pelosi said they'd have to wait because his wife would not be coming back for about a day. Mr. Pelosi could see defendant... I've got a cat again. Gesturing and heard defendant tell him to get off the phone. To defuse the situation, Mr. Pelosi told the dispatcher he did not need police, fire or medical assistance, trying to be calm and discreet while also trying to help dispatcher understand the situation. Mr. Pelosi then asked for the Capitol Police because they're usually at the house protecting his wife. The dispatcher clarified that Mr. Pelosi was calling San Francisco Police. Mr. Pelosi said he understood and asked someone, I don't know, what do you think? Another man responded, everything's good. Mr. Pelosi then stated, he thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good. When the dispatcher told Mr. Pelosi to call back if he changed his mind, Mr. Pelosi quickly responded, no, this gentleman just came to the house and he wants to wait for my wife to come home. The dispatcher then asked Mr. Pelosi if he knew the person, and Mr. Pelosi said that he did not. Well, in the beginning they were saying he did. Mr. Pelosi then said the man was telling him not to do anything. The dispatcher then asked Mr. Pelosi for his name and address, and Mr. Pelosi gave the dispatcher both. Mr. Pelosi then said the man told him to put the phone down and just do what he says. The dispatcher then asked for the man's name, and the man responded, my name is David. When the dispatcher asked who David is, Mr. Pelosi said, I don't know, but David said, I'm a friend of theirs. Mr. Pelosi then confirmed with the dispatcher that he did not know the man. He's telling me I'm being very lazy, so I've got to stop talking to you, okay? What? When the dispatcher offered to stay on the line with Mr. Pelosi to make sure everything's okay, Mr. Pelosi said no, he wants me to get the hell off the phone. The call ended. Based on her training and what she heard, dispatcher Heather Grives issued a priority well-being check. After the call, defendant said that he was tired and needed to sleep. He also told Mr. Pelosi that he had a backpack downstairs with a whole bunch of stuff inside. They proceeded downstairs with defendant walking behind Mr. Pelosi, still holding the large hammer and zip ties. Turning on the lights, Mr. Pelosi could see where the defendant entered the house. The defendant commented that he had to bash the window several times to break through and enter. Defendant also said that the police would be there any minute. Mr. Pelosi tried to calm defendant by saying that they would not, but defendant responded, I can take you out. Defendant came around to Mr. Pelosi's right with the large hammer upright in his hand, afraid that defendant would strike him with that hammer. Mr. Pelosi reached out and put his hand on the handle of the hammer. Shortly after the initial call, officers Colby Wilms and Kyle Cagney responded to the residence. When off... What? Wilms rang the doorbell. What's when off mean? Anyway, okay, let's just continue. Wilms rang the doorbell. Defendant directed Mr. Pelosi not to open the door, but Mr. Pelosi opened the door with his left hand. As the door opened, the two men stood in a dimly lit foyer facing the officers. Mr. Pelosi nervously but calmly greeted them. When the officer asked what was going on, the defendant smiled and said everything's good and pulled his hands toward his body. When an officer turned on his flashlight, defendant could be seen holding the bottom handle of a hammer with one hand and Mr. Pelosi's right arm with the other. Mr. Pelosi had his hand on the top of the handle near the hammer itself. One officer ordered drop the hammer. At the same time, defendant raised the hammer and said, nope. Defendant tried to pull the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi, which twisted Mr. Pelosi's arm back. Simultaneously, Mr. Pelosi pleaded, hey, hey, hey. The officer again asked what's going on here, but Mr. Pelosi could not maintain his grip on the hammer. Okay, I've got questions. Again. Why are the police not tasing the guy or doing anything to stop him? Just keep on asking him what's going on. And he's got a hammer in his hand, and he's obviously trying to attack someone, and they're not doing anything? Okay, a second later, defendant wrenched the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi, immediately stepped back and lunged at Mr. Pelosi, striking Mr. Pelosi in the head at full force with the hammer, which knocked Mr. Pelosi unconscious. The officers rushed into the house, tackled defendant, and disarmed him. Mr. Pelosi remained unresponsive for about 3 minutes, waking up in a pool of his own blood. While on scene, Officer Wilms asked defendant if there were any more suspects. Defendant said that he acted alone. Defendant then looked at the glass door and said that was where he broke into the house. Officers later recovered defendant's bag outside the damaged glass doors. Inside there was another hammer, a laptop, and more bags of zip ties. Without any questioning, defendant told officers and medics at the scene, "I'm sick of the insane effing level of lies coming out of Washington, D.C. I came here to have a little chat with his wife," defendant added. "I didn't really want to hurt him, but, this was a suicide mission. I'm not going to stand here and do nothing, even if it cost me my life. Hurting him was not my goal. I told him before I attacked him that he's escalating things and I will go through him if I have to." Now, they tried saying this guy was a Q supporter, MAGA, whatever, sure, yeah, right. Well, he had BLM and Antifa and rainbow signs out the front of his house. He lived in San Francisco. Do you really think he lived with other people, other lefties, and was a right-winger? Do you not think he would have been attacked? Anywho, San Francisco Fire Department medics responded immediately, rendered aid to Mr. Pelosi and transported him to San Francisco General Hospital at SFGH. Mr. Pelosi underwent emergency surgery to repair a skull fracture and serious injuries to his arm and hands. How do you repair a skull fracture? I know a lot of people who've had skull fractures and have not had emergency surgery. Anyway, okay, maybe there is a point where you do need emergency surgery. Mr. Pelosi remains hospitalised. Upon arrest, defendant admitted he intended to enter the home to take Speaker Pelosi hostage. In his underwear? Where was he going to take her? Or was he going to hold a hostage in her own home? And if Speaker Pelosi lied to him, he intended to break her kneecaps. Oh, God, he's going to kneecap her now. Seeing Ring security cameras everywhere, defendant knew he'd be caught on camera. Yeah, I'm sure there's security there. Even if Pelosi took most of the security with her, there would still be security behind looking after a house and a husband. Okay, well, anyway, let's continue. Defendant was surprised when he found Mr. Pelosi still asleep after making so much noise to gain entry. When Mr. Pelosi attempted to enter the elevator near the bedroom, defendant held the elevator door thinking it would lead to a safe room. When Mr. Pelosi called 911, defendant knew the call was being recorded, but by calling 911, defendant believed that Mr. Pelosi pushed him into a corner. Back in the bedroom, defendant told Mr. Pelosi that he cannot be stopped, he has other targets, and later when police arrived, defendant, not willing to surrender, yanked the hammer away and hit Mr. Pelosi with full force. When asked if he had any other plans, defendant named several targets, including a local professor, several prominent state and federal politicians, and relatives of those state and federal politicians. If you'd like to check out my podcast where I read through this and can only think, what the yep. This is the story they're giving now, okay? Pretty much. Okay, just hang in there, I've got more. Okay, you've got breaking. NBC pulls bombshell Paul Pelosi report across platforms after TGP report on contradicting federal charging papers. NBC News has pulled their bombshell report Friday morning by Miguel Almaguer on the attack on Paul Pelosi that included details that contradicted the narrative in the federal charging papers against accused attacker David DePepe. The video of a report that aired on the Today Show was pulled across several platforms after the Gateway pundit reported the contradictions, which was not noted by NBC in their report. Last weekend, a report by NBC, a third person was in the Pelosi home at the time of the attack was walked back. The YouTube video originally posted to the Today Show was made private. The video at the Today Show Twitter page was deleted. The video taken down with a message stating, "We apologise, this video has expired." The headline brief text at the page remains, "Paul Pelosi released from hospital 6 days after the intruder attack." Paul Pelosi was released from hospital on Thursday, is now recovering from a fractured skull and several other serious injuries at home. NBC's Miguel, I'll just call him Miguel, reports for today on Pelosi's condition, as well as the new details about the crime that are coming to light. Yeah. And this was Paul Pelosi opened the door for the cops, did not flee or declare emergency, walked back to the attacker in the house, then was attacked, apparently. This is what they're trying to spin now. Okay? Oh, dear God. So this is what they're trying to spin, okay? And they've changed things from a journal to a laptop, okay? The door was open. Pelosi and DePepe were both holding the hammer. Had his other hand holding, yep, okay, yep. We read that. When officers removed DePepe from Pelosi's residence, police body-worn camera footage showed a glass door that appeared to be laminated glass, broken near the door handle, zip ties in Pelosi's bedroom in the hallway near the front door of the residence. Yep, see, they said they found cloth gloves and a journal, a roll of white tape, white rope, one hammer, one pair of rubber and cloth gloves. There you go. New NBC News learning new details about moments police arrived. Sources familiar with what unfolded in the Pelosi residence now revealing when officers responded to the high-priority call, they were seemingly unaware they'd been called to the home of the Speaker of the House. After a knock and announced the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi, the 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police. It's unclear if the 82-year-old was already injured or what his mental state was, says sources. According to court documents, when the officer asked what was going on, the defendant smiled and said everything's good, but instantaneously a struggle ensued as police clearly saw David DePape strike Paul Pelosi in the head with a hammer. After tackling the suspect, officers rushed to Mr. Pelosi, who was lying in a pool of blood. Okay. It doesn't make sense. Why would he walk back in? You'd be running out the front door towards the police. None of it makes sense, does it? Okay. And they said that the piece should not have aired because it did not meet NBC News reporting standards. And people have still got it. It's still there. Okay, can we see this?
This morning, the 82-year-old lucky to be alive after an intruder nearly killed him in his own home.
Law enforcement officials tell us the bottom line here is this was a terrifying situation. We still don't know exactly what unfolded between Mr. Pelosi and the suspect for the 30 minutes they were alone inside that house before police arrived. Officials who are investigating this matter would not go into further details about these new details. Craig, back to you.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, though. He is lucky to be alive. Miguel Amelgar for us. Miguel, thank you.
Another thing people are asking also is... there doesn't seem to be any bandages or anything on top of Paul Pelosi's head. But hey, we'll find out. We'll keep looking. Okay, now we have Paul Pelosi, alleged attacker David DePape silenced, media kept out of his court appearance. Now he's in jail until trial. Of course they're going to keep the media out. They keep the media out when they need to cover something up, as we know with Ghislaine Maxwell. I know they're not supposed to film federal court proceedings, but surely if it's a matter of public interest, surely they could make exceptions. The Pelosi family, the courts, the media and the Democrats do not want David DePape's story to be heard. What are they afraid of? Last Friday, early in the morning in San Francisco, the police arrived at the Pelosi home in San Francisco. They reportedly arrived on a wellness check, not a robbery. When the door opened, the police saw Paul Pelosi and David DePape fighting over a hammer. The police did nothing until DePape allegedly pulled the hammer from much older Pelosi and allegedly hit Pelosi on the head. This story is full of holes. How did DePape get near the house without the cameras, security, police, motion detectors locating and stopping him? How did DePape get into the house without someone notifying the Pelosis? They have high security, guys. There's no way anyone's going to get near them. She's third in line to the president, for goodness sake. Well, sorry, if anything happens to the president, she's, second. For some reason, the camera footage from the house has not been released. Is this because it doesn't match the narrative created by the FBI? Also, where is the camera footage from police? Why is this not being released? Well, that would just show us everything, but no, they don't want to do that. We heard that DePape was in the hospital as recently as Monday along with Paul Pelosi. What are his injuries? Why don't we know? The media wasn't allowed to be at the court hearing, where DePape reportedly pled not guilty. No one has even seen DePape since the accident. It was reported that DePape was in hospital on Monday, but another report says he has been in jail since his arrest last Friday. Where is DePape and where has he been? Yeah, exactly. There's more questions than answers with this thing. Okay, guys, I found this as well about DePape. We know the one crime that'll get you deported from San Francisco, attack of Pelosi. Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security opened the US southern border when he came into office. Biden allowed more than 5 million illegal aliens to enter US since January 2021. Democrats love open borders. They know it'll hasten the collapse of America. But there is one crime that'll not be allowed. David DePape, the friend of Paul Pelosi, who attacked the Speaker's husband with a hammer, may be deported after he's released from custody. DePape came through the Mexico border to enter the US illegally, and you wouldn't believe where he's from. The man accused of attacking... Oh, here we go again. My neighbour's making noise. Sorry, guys. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband could be deported from the US after he's released from custody. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, lodged an immigration detainer on a 42-year-old Canadian national, David DePape. So he's gone from the north down to Mexico and entered the US through there. Records show DePape entered the US through San Ysidro, California, a point of entry on the southern border in 2008 as a temporary visitor, officials said. The man accused of breaking into House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's house and attacking her husband with a hammer could be deported from the US after he is released from custody, the Department of Homeland Security said Thursday. US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, lodged an immigration detainer on 42-year-old Canadian national David DePape, the DHS told CNBC in a statement. So there you go, there's something else. He's Canadian. Then we have this all over Twitter. People are asking questions. Steve Mudflat McGrew's Rare Masculated podcast said, do we have any pictures of Paul Pelosi's shaved head from surgery? No? Any video? No? This is in response to Betty Johnson saying breaking Paul Pelosi opened the door for cops, did not flee or declare emergency, walked back to the attacker in the house, then was attacked. What? Pedro L. Gonzalez said Paul Pelosi gets mauled by a pride flag waving drug addicted illegal alien who supports BLM and libs act like it's right wing 9/11. But the family home of a GOP congressional candidate gets shot up. Crickets. They want you dead and they think it's funny. Jesse Kelly said maybe Paul Pelosi has a strong head in response to Dominator. Hit an 82-year-old man in the head with a hammer. A week later, he's out of hospital doing fine. Sure, Jan. Rising Serpent said, isn't it amazing how the media hasn't figured out the January 6th pipe bomber, the Supreme Court leaker, a single one of Epstein's clients, the motive of the Las Vegas shooter, but they knew Paul Pelosi's midnight visitor was MAGA even before both could put their underwear back on? Interesting question. Cernovich said release the body cam footage and end the speculation. That's the only way to look. They go on about conspiracy theories. Release the footage. It'll clear it up. Buck Sexton said Biden's final pitch to the American people before the election is that nudist communist illegal alien who attacked Paul Pelosi is basically the same thing as the January 6th insurrection, and it's all Trump's fault. Biden's a moron and his party deserves its imminent humiliation. The Bradford Files said lol, NBC News has apologised for accidentally reporting some truth on the Paul Pelosi story. You cannot make this up. Dinesh D'Souza said NBC News has apologised for accidentally reporting the truth about poor Pelosi. Never should have happened. I expect they'll now launch an investigation to determine how facts contradicting the prevailing leftist narrative were, even momentarily, put on air. We're going into Twitter layoffs. Twitter's laid off the human... what is it? I can't remember. They've laid off another bunch of people. Twitter layoffs exist because Twitter was a grift for thousands of millennials who pretended to work but were actually acting as censors, tyrants, and nasty big state enforcers, disappearing people who hurt the feelings of billionaires, CEOs, and politicians. Okay, so now that we've done, well, pretty much Pelosi, it just doesn't make sense. They could just release the body cam footage, security camera footage, and the whole thing would be cleared up. But now we've done that, let's go on to other things. There's that. Okay, please return home. Reports 85% of Twitter India is fired, 250 of 300 employees. Twitter CEO Elon Musk has announced mass firings would take place today. Twitter sent an email to employees on Thursday telling them they'd be notified if they were fired based on whether an email popped up on their Twitter account or in their personal email. There's the official thing. It looks like Twitter Asia was hit the hardest. 90% of Twitter Asia is fired. Source. 85% of India Twitter is fired. Source. Is it a competition who can fire more? Well, they're both part of that censorship thing, I believe. According to Pindia, Twitter fired almost all of its employees in India. Microblogging social media platform, Twitter is undergoing many changes after being acquired by Elon Musk. In a recent development, Twitter laid off most of its employees in India on November the 4th, 2022. Though the company has laid off employees in its marketing, communication and engineering department in large numbers, other departments of the company are also undergoing significant shuffle and layoffs, including the engineering department. The CEO of Twitter, Parag Agrawal, as well as the CFO and a few other senior executives, were fired last week by the world's richest businessman, Elon Musk, who started his tenure there. Musk has now begun a significant effort to reduce the company's overall staff. Layoffs in India are a component of the same exercise. The extent of this radical shift in the organisational structure can be gauged by the fact that Twitter has 300 employees in India and almost 250 employees across all the functions were fired by Elon Musk, who was anyways not happy with the old management for their allegedly dishonest and untrue appearance during the acquisition deal. Okay, so there you go. In the exit email, Twitter told employees, in an effort to place Twitter on a healthy path, we will go through the difficult process of reducing our global workforce on Friday. We will temporarily close all offices for the safety of employees as well as Twitter systems and customer data. If you are in an office or on your way to an office, please return home. So that is what is going on with Twitter. Okay, we also have Elon Musk threatens thermonuclear name and shame for advertisers leaving Twitter due to pressure from liberal groups. Groups? Okay. So he's threatening to name and shame the companies, which a lot of people would probably boycott. Okay, so that's all I've got on Twitter for now, but there's a battle brewing between Nancy Pelosi's daughter and state senator for a congressional seat. Okay, and last but not least, here we have Madonna's latest creepy Instagram post has people asking what is wrong with her. We asked that quite a while ago. Has she got dandruff in her hair? I don't know what's wrong with her hair there. Oh, she's bleached her... She's got no eyebrows. She's bleached her eyebrows? What in the material girl world is going on? Seeing Madonna's social media antics get creepier and creepier. Her latest unhinged video shows a 64-year-old former pop star looking stark with bleached eyebrows and severe orange braids, lip-syncing aggressively aggressive, profanity-laced music. In the video, she is clad in a black mesh top over a black bra with black and white corset and black jeans. She oddly and aggressively lunges toward the camera, stares menacingly, and culminates in a weird pose on a bed. The singer, who previously said she thought about blowing up the White House while President Trump was still inside, looks unrecognisable. Okay, and let's have a look at it. I'm not going to play the music because it's to a rap song. Oh, can't even turn that down. But look at her. That was just like weird as. Okay, viewers expressed concern about the singer's increasingly odd behaviour. Madonna has sparked concern among fans over a TikTok video she posted of herself lip-syncing along to aggressive song lyrics. Have you ever been punched in your MF face? The Queen of Pop 64 rapped, mouthing along the words to Baby Keem's song Vent in the clip, which was also shared on Instagram on Thursday. What you say? Oh, you haven't? Alright, wait. One critic wrote in the comments section, "This is just awful. What happened to the real Madonna, the one that you can actually look at and say, wow, you're beautiful and talented, laugh my ass off." Another said, "The Madonna I used to admire was the one on Immaculate Collection. This woman has lost all of her mind. Time to retire." A third said, "You were my idol growing up. I used to love your music and creativity. Please stop with these weird reels. It's getting dark and concerning now." Last week, the singer posted topless photos of herself. In early October, she was looking weathered in a post TikTok of teasing that she might be gay, which I've shown you that one. But Madonna just keeps staying weird. In fact, probably getting weirder. I don't know. I don't know whether the fried fish thing or this is weirder. You can let me know down below, guys. Oh, dear. The news is crazy. Okay, let me know what you think about all this down below. I hope you have a good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And I'll talk to you soon, guys. Okay, bye.